Welcome to Order from Ashes, Century International's podcast. This is an episode of Broken Bonds, the existential crisis of Egypt's Muslim Brotherhood from 2013 to 2022. This is our fourth out of 5 episodes. I'm talking to Abdelrahman Ayyash, and today we're going to be talking about the second of the 3 crises that is facing Egypt's Muslim Brotherhood, the legitimacy crisis. Ayyash, thanks for joining us on Order from Ashes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So on earlier podcasts in the Broken Bond series, we heard your story of your sort of upbringing and awakening. We heard you and your co-authors from the book Broken Bonds in the second episode talking about your view on what is the significance of the trajectory of the Brotherhood and why we need to update the way we study and think about it as researchers, as policymakers, and in general as observers of the Brotherhood. And then we heard from one of your co-authors on the last episode about the identity crisis. So today we're talking to you about the legitimacy crisis. Why don't you start off by telling us really, like, what do you mean by a legitimacy crisis?
Right. So legitimacy in the Muslim Brotherhood, or the legitimacy of the leadership of the Muslim Brotherhood, it historically stemmed out of different notions or different factors participated in the legitimacy of the leadership of the Muslim Brotherhood. One of them was the companionship with Hassan al-Banna, or the founding moments of the Muslim Brotherhood. So the leaders up until Mahdi Akif, the sixth general guide of the movement, who stepped down from the leadership in early 2010, late 2009. He was a companion to Hassan al-Banna. He was a close associate with Hassan al-Banna. After that, the legitimacy was stemming of or out of the what we can call the ordeal that the Muslim Brotherhood members or leaders went through. Lengthy periods of imprisonment, torture, diaspora. People had to leave their jobs, had to leave their families. So this actually factors in the legitimacy of the leadership.
So wait, let me just restate those things crisply, so I make sure we understand. So at first, the legitimacy of the leadership stems from leaders having been associated with the group's founder. So the first generation of leaders going on for many decades could claim that they were hanging out with the founder in the 1920s and 1930s, and that was their legitimacy source. And then after that peer group of Hassan al-Banna, the founder of the Brotherhood, sort of aged out or died out from leadership, you say the legitimacy of leaders stemmed from having suffered under the crackdowns by the Egyptian government. And I presume you're talking about Nasser's crackdown and its aftermath in the late 50s and 1960s. Is that right?
Right. And thirdly, the legitimacy of the leaders came from elections or institutional promotion inside the movement. And this happened after what we can call the second constitution of the Muslim Brotherhood, or the second formation of the Muslim Brotherhood, that took place between mid-70s to early 90s, and up until the revolution and after the revolution, most of the young, what they called young leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood, were members or were leaders who joined the movement in the 70s, late 60s, including, for example, Khairat Shater and other people, Mahmoud Izzat, for example, and some other. There will be many names here, but Mahmoud Izzat and some other leaders, they were part of the ordeal generation the ones who were imprisoned during the 60s and even late 50s. But what happened is that with the failure of the Muslim Brotherhood to run the country, and the failure of President Morsi, late President Morsi, to gather the people around him, to gather at least a majority of people around him, the Brotherhood people, the supporters, the members, the sympathizers, all of them, they started to question the legitimacy of the leaders. And the absence of the leaders after the military coup, by death, arrest, or even leaving Egypt. And some of them decided also not to take part in leadership. Very few of them decided not to take part of any leadership positions anymore. The base of the movement started to question that, and they started to ask for new leaders. And after the coup, the leadership started to formulate, and it was around a very different legitimacy than what we knew before. And this is what we are trying to detail in this chapter, is that how the leadership is now formulating inside the movement, and around what. And the main point that I want to say is that the effectiveness of the leader, or if he's able to deliver, I think this is what's making leaders now inside the Muslim Brotherhood. And I'm not talking about people who are in their 40s, 50s, or older only. I'm talking also about the very young people in their 20s and very early 30s, who were on the ground after the military coup and who are imprisoned right now. These are the people who are leading the movement in a way.
Is their legitimacy again based on sort of ordeal, on what they're suffering, or is it based on something else that has more connection with their ability to persuade, mobilize, problem solve with their fellows?
Yeah. So of course, I think what we will be seeing in the future will be a legitimacy built on the ordeal. Maybe after the people get out of prison, after the Muslim Brotherhood members get out of prisons, yeah, of course it will be built on the ordeal. But right now, I think it's built on the effectiveness. Some people are saying that, and I heard from Muslim Brotherhood mid ranking leader saying that maybe the one who should be leading the Muslim Brotherhood is the one who lost a son or a daughter in a protest, for example, or who spent such and such years in prison. Some people are still thinking about that, but I think the crisis, or what makes it a crisis, is the complexity of these sacrifices, I'd say. So yeah, the people in prison, they have been paying the dearest price, but people outside Egypt, or members of the Muslim Brotherhood outside Egypt, have been also going through very difficult times themselves. So the ordeal narrative, I'm not sure if it will be strong enough to build legitimacies, or if it's not strong enough now, or if it's strong enough now to build legitimacies. But the notion about effectiveness and also the failures that took place, yeah, I think that's what concerns most of the Muslim Brotherhood members right now. People now are trying to vote out, at least those who have not been able to change the situation, or to even provide a strategy to counter the government.
Okay, so let's get into some of the details, because you've done some fascinating work, like fleshing out the stories of these debates. First, though, I want to ask, how do members of the Brotherhood in the current situation where so many of them are in exile or in prison, how do they vote on who's going to be on the leadership committee?
Yeah. So the organization is still intact in many ways. So, for example, in prisons, in each prison in Egypt right now, there is the organization, the Muslim Brotherhood organization, and the hierarchy and everything, and people there are participating in communal activities and also in some organizational activities, including taking votes for decisions or to choose at least the leadership of the prisons, because in each prison there is one who's responsible for the Muslim Brotherhood members there, and it's not only useful for the Muslim Brotherhood to have a leader inside, and of course they do it the best just to build the organization from nothing, but it's very useful also for the state, for the regime, for the government itself, as they have only one point of contact to reach out to calm everyone in prison, or to threaten everyone in prison, and they do this also very effectively. But outside Egypt, the organization has been having a big problem in these electoral mechanisms or internal mechanisms of choosing the leaders, and this is not because of the lack of the organizational structure in a way, but because of the battling leaders or the warring leaders, if I would say, who each of them assume leadership to himself.
So these are
based on
competing camps of exiles. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Competing camps of exiles that are both laying pretense to being the leaders of the Brotherhood, and this is separate from the leaders that are emerging within the Egyptian prison system.
Right, and not only the Egyptian prison system. So after the military coup, the Muslim Brotherhood members, they were still outside prisons. I mean, most of the Muslim Brotherhood members were not in Rabaa. The Rabaa, maybe it contained, I don't know, like 50, 60,000 people. The Muslim Brotherhood actual numbers are much higher than that, and so the people in prisons, they are not the only members or the only active members of the Muslim Brotherhood right now. There are, of course, members of the Muslim Brotherhood who are still in Egypt and who have been active after the military coup. The thing about these members and leaders is that they are the ones who propose new strategies to the government, and who are also responsible for taking care of the families. So, organically speaking, these members and leaders had the upper hand in taking decisions and in deciding for the whole movement, and especially with the absence of other leaders, including, for example, the top ranking leader Mahmoud Azzat, who is the deputy general guide of the Muslim Brotherhood, and with the arrest of Muhammad Badi', the general guide of the Muslim Brotherhood, Azzat became the de facto leader. He disappeared very early after Rabaa, very early in the summer of 2013, and the leaders on the ground, they assumed power, or they were the de facto leaders. They were the ones taking the decisions, talking to Brotherhood members around the country, and also being in touch with the Muslim Brotherhood outside Egypt. So this was the first, or the beginning of the legitimacy crisis, if we can call it like that. So it started with the present leaders assuming leadership, just doing their rule. So they had to make decisions, or to take decisions, that the historical leaders of the movement, so against the group, or against the movement's ideology, or against the movement itself. And when this happened, the absent leaders started to emerge again, or they re-emerged, from their hide, and they to issue statements and to promote other leaders and to provide leaders outside Egypt with legitimacy to assume leadership. So that's inside Egypt, and the decisions we are talking about here are decisions that affected the movement for, of course, for the past 10 years, but it also will affect the movement's trajectory maybe for many years to come. The leaders on the ground, someone like Muhammad Kamal, for example, and some other leaders who left Egypt, like Ali Battigh, for example, they made decisions that include a very calmer policy, or a very easy policy on the use of violence inside the movement. And this was a very dangerous precedent in the movement's history for leaders with this, for leaders on the, top tier leaders to take such decisions.
We'll take a short break. I'm Thanasi Kambanis, talking to Abdelrahman Ayyash as part of our Broken Bonds series about Egypt's Muslim Brotherhood. We're talking today about the legitimacy crisis. We'll be right back.
Today's world is changing faster than ever. Old rules don't apply, and the new rules haven't been written. At least not yet. I'm Rohan Advani, and I produce the Order from Ashes podcast at the Century Foundation, a leading progressive think tank that promotes peace, cooperation, and equality at home and abroad. On Order from Ashes, we try to make sense of a new international system in which America no longer dictates the global order. Join us as we talk to activists and analysts on the front lines of the most pressing issues in international policy.
I'm Thanasi Kambanis. You're listening to Order from Ashes. I'm talking to Abdelrahman Ayyash about the legitimacy crisis in the Muslim Brotherhood as part of our Broken Bonds series on the existential crisis of Egypt's Muslim Brotherhood from 2013 to 2022. Right before the break, Ayyash, we were starting to talk about the way in which leaders of the Brotherhood after 2013 took what you called, characterized as a sort of easy position. I think you meant you mean like a permissive view on the use of violence. And I want to hear a little bit more about that. What exactly was the debate inside the Brotherhood after 2013 about the use of violence, and how did it play out? How did we what was the arc? Because as I understand from your research, there was a period where there was a sort of more permissive view towards it, and then at some point it reined back in and went back to the Brotherhood's traditional, more sort of restrained and conservative position of not approving of or embracing the use of violence by its members.
Right. So I think, and based on many interviews actually that I had with former leaders and current leaders and members of the Muslim Brotherhood, I could articulate the debate that was going on is around the priority of the organization versus the priority of the revolution. So which one should have the priority, the organization or the revolution? And the Muslim Brotherhood leaders on the ground at the time, and again, many of the historical leaders were either in prison or absent in hiding. The present leaders, they decided to not only address the issue of security killing members of the Muslim Brotherhood on daily basis and protests and in the streets. People were being killed in the streets on daily basis from the Muslim Brotherhood, and of course the Muslim Brotherhood members, especially in different governorates and in countryside, and in a place like Mansoura, for example, 3 girls were killed actually by security members, or what we call baltagiya, or the thugs that are supported by the government. They killed 3 girls in the first week of the military coup, and so for the Muslim Brotherhood members, they needed to react, and this is exactly what Ibrahim Munir, the late leader of the Muslim Brotherhood, who just died at the beginning of November, told me and my colleague Amr about the reaction of the Muslim Brotherhood at the time. It was a normal reaction. He said it was people saw their beloved or their loved ones being killed in the streets, and they didn't know what to do. There were no other choices for them. There is no political space. They cannot protest even, and they saw everyone turning against them. And of course, with the absence of the leaders who may be able to calm them down or to give them directions somehow, so people started to act on their own. What happened later is that the leadership, the present leadership of the Muslim Brotherhood, they listened to what the members on the grounds were saying. They wanted to react, and some of them said, let's see how it goes. So they first approved what they called السلمية المبدعة, or the creative peacefulness. And it means that anything below blood is, and I'm trying to literally translate from Arabic. So everything below blood is permissible. So everything that includes, for example, torching police cars or hitting electricity institutions, or I don't know, attacking buildings.
So this is basically a policy of limited violence, is how I would describe that, right? So they're saying violence is permissible as long as you're not shedding blood, as long as you're not going so far as killing people. But of course, this is delicate because once you start setting fire to things, for example, you don't know who might get hurt.
Yeah, and this is what happened, and especially with the rising crackdown, or the continuing crackdown against the Brotherhood, they started thinking about some, again, effective tools to work against, or to counter the government, or to oppose the government, and they started attacking, and actually, this is a very confusing part for anyone inside the Muslim Brotherhood or outside. People are not completely sure whether the first attack took place. The first attack against the police, for example, took place with permission from a Muslim Brotherhood mid-leader, or maybe top leader, or not. Because it's plausible that it happened as a reaction from someone on the ground. But either way, the Brotherhood leaders at some point, they started founding committees. These committees, it was believed that they were helping the protests, they were securing the protesters, but their rules started to get wider and wider, and they started to act against or to kill people simply. And they did kill several people. I mean, of course, no one would say that this group or that group killed someone, but it's known that some former members of the Muslim Brotherhood or young members of the Muslim Brotherhood participated in attacks that resulted in killing people. And this is when the historical leader of the Muslim Brotherhood started to intervene. So some leaders, Mahmoud Ghazlan and Abdelrahman Ayyash, started to issue statements saying that the use of violence is totally unacceptable, and that the Muslim Brotherhood will not be endorsing violence no matter what and no matter how. And the other leaders started saying that, or the present leaders, including Kamal, for example, they started saying that this is not a battle over violence or peacefulness. It was a battle over legitimacy of leadership. And of course, outside Egypt, it was the same debate. People saying that it's violent against peacefulness, and that the leaders' positions here, it was for them a battle of ideology or strategy, and for others, the battle was just for leadership. And who should be the leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood?
We're about to wrap up this episode. So sort of in closing, the way I read this study that you've produced, when you're talking about this legitimacy crisis, what I understand is essentially you all are making the argument that the Brotherhood's leadership is really suffering from a major deficit in legitimacy and a crisis in legitimacy, in large part because of fragmentation. So one axis is the one you were just talking about, the sort of fragmentation that evolved over the course of the debate about violence and also who's inside the country and outside. And there's a second one which you write about a lot in the book, which we didn't talk about too much today, which was the sort of contest largely over resources and control between these rival exile camps in Britain in London and Istanbul. And so sort of in your when you look at like where the organization's leadership and its legitimacy is today, would you say that it's like paralyzed by this kind of fragmentation? Like, how would you characterize the state of the legitimacy of the organization's leadership at this moment in time?
So, yeah, of course, fragmentation is a major part of the current crisis of legitimacy inside the Muslim Brotherhood. And the crisis actually is still ongoing. And of course, there were some recent developments with the death of Ibrahim Munir, the general guide of the Muslim Brotherhood, or the acting general guide of the Muslim Brotherhood in London. But what's happening right now is that the faction of Ibrahim Munir, which was confined only to London until maybe 2016, like that, the faction of Ibrahim Munir is now getting the most of the support inside the movement. And there is another faction in Istanbul led by Mahmoud Hussein, a former associate or a former ally to Ibrahim Munir. Mahmoud Hussein in Istanbul is trying to assume the leadership for himself. And it seems that the Brotherhood is going to choose someone as a leader who has not been involved in all of these debates and all of these wars, internal wars, over leadership. And some people are saying that he will be someone who had the legitimacy or the classical sources of legitimacy, like the ordeal, for example. So he might be someone who spent some time with Sayyid in prison in the 60s, for example, and he might be someone who, who would be a more spiritual leader than a political one. And I think this is what the Muslim Brotherhood is trying to do right now, although it might be a very, I think it's a very wrong idea to get a leader who's not a political leader. But I think what they are going for right now is to get a leader from the upbringing section inside the Muslim Brotherhood who are, again, spiritual, religious, and who could have the legitimacy of the ordeal.
But that's the ordeal from a generation ago, as opposed to the ordeal that is ongoing right now from 2013. And I think that we'll end on that point that you're really painting a picture of an organization whose leadership is increasingly in multiple ways out of sync with and out of tune with the experiences and interests of its membership, right? So this is a kind of elite membership organization. Its members are undergoing unprecedented repression. Tens of thousands of them are in exile or in jail. So many have been killed. And the leaders are meanwhile either fighting over resources or fighting over these kind of almost abstract questions. And then they're invoking their legitimacy, not in the shared experience of post-2013, but in this almost notional, almost theoretical legitimacy that comes from something that happened in your grandparents' generation.
Yeah, you're right. And for me, I believe that the Muslim Brotherhood is going to struggle from this legitimacy crisis for a very long time to come. Although it seems that the leadership or the current leaders, especially on Ibrahim Munir's faction, they are assuming the real power right now. They are getting more resources and they are getting the support of most members inside Egypt and outside Egypt. But the rooted reasons for this crisis is still there. And unless the Muslim Brotherhood treats these underlying causes of the legitimacy crisis, the Muslim Brotherhood will not be able to come back again as a strong organization or as a strong political actor.
Thank you, Ayyash. And I mean, this is a running theme of this work in Broken Bonds, which is that the very same factors that make the Muslim Brotherhood a persistent and important force are also the factors that limit its ability to learn and adapt and function as a more effective organization. We'll leave it here for now, and then we have one more episode. On the next episode of Order from Ashes, I'll be talking to Ahmed Al-Lafifi about the membership crisis and the sort of way forward for the Muslim Brotherhood and the implications for policy of all these things we've been discussing on the Broken Bonds series. You can read the book, Broken Bonds, The Existential Crisis of Egypt's Muslim Brotherhood, 2013-2022. You can find ways to order the book or read it on the Century Foundation's website, tcf.org. I'm Thanasi Kambanis. You've been listening to Order from Ashes with Abdelrahman Ayyash. Ayyash, thanks so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you, Thanasi, for having me, and thanks for supporting our project.
The Order from Ashes podcast has been brought to you by Century International. Our work builds on more than 100 years of commitment to international peace, security, and governance at the Century Foundation. We are independent, critical, and progressive. For more information about Century International's work, please visit tcf.org or follow us on Twitter and Facebook. We depend on audience feedback to reach new listeners. If you like what you hear, please leave a review wherever you get your podcasts.